All right, let's open the meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. I'm Eric Worth, the chair, and I'm with three other board members, Robert Ferreira, John Martin, and Marion Remy. Brief agenda for the meeting tonight. The first item is an information session. Trevor, you want to come up to the table?
Sure, we start now.
Yeah. So Trevor Knight is a homeowner in Cold Spring. He asked to have an information session with the board before he gets his project underway. I don't know anything about it, except that you're located on Marion Avenue, right?
That's right, yeah. 17 Marion, sort of across from Louis Tractors. It's the one with a stone wall, gardens and everything. Yeah, a couple years ago, I built a garage, and initially, the initial plan for it asked for a variance. So I know, Eric, you were on the board then. John, were you?
John
Yes,
was too.
yeah.
sure.
Okay.
I started in 1890.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had no idea I had no idea what I was getting into, especially the social political sort of street politics thing. I didn't realize they would. Yeah, when I talked to the neighbors and said, "Oh, I'm planning on doing this. Like, if you have any comments, I'm always here. Come, just if you have any questions, anything." What? And they never said anything. And then the ZBA, and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna apply for this variance." They're like, "Okay," And then the ZBA meeting was totally blindsided by the 5-page letter that he wrote for the thing. Anyway, so obviously that was an educational experience on how it works, and I've been able to go online and understand more about the 5 requirements of character of the neighborhood and benefit and substantial, et cetera. These, and so I mean, I guess I want to just understand more, because I wanted to understand it's basically, taking these 5 questions, it's basically weighing the answers to these questions versus the benefit to the applicant. Is that more or less what it's doing?
Weighing benefit to the applicant versus potential detriment to the community.
Yeah, gotcha. I see from the New York State guide to the DBA that no one question is disqualifying, but it's just on the totality, right? So these are the questions I couldn't get answered. How do you sort of quantify detriment or benefit? Like, if I'm like, "Oh, I want to build this, it's amazing for my quality of life," and someone says, "I don't want to see it," how do you sort of,
It's a really good question.
Good question.
But it's all, in large part, it's measured off by what the Board of Trustees have handed down as, code requirements, measured off of that.
right? Yeah,
Kept in mind with an idea that gives the board parameters to begin to understand how best to balance everything. So, nothing particularly set in stone except for the code requirements are. And then you're trying to figure out, okay, if we grant a variance, which are things that can be authorized from those code provisions, all based on the circumstances that you're dealing with. It can, so every, as Eric will tell you and other people on the board, every case is different. So, because you'll have different little facets, and then the community will weigh it. And just out of curiosity, I'm also curious about that 5-page letter. I don't recollect what that was about.
One neighbor objected strongly and wrote a long letter, and then showed up, spoke against the application.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't fully remember what those comments were. So it's hard to.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
I think the key point is that there was strong opposition from a neighbor, and which often happens.
But that's all taken in the balance.
Right. That's not
determined.
It's never decisive. That alone is not enough to disqualify an application. It never is.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And because the board members realize there are neighbors who don't speak, there are neighbors who don't come. I mean, just,
Mhm.
you know, everything doesn't rise or fall based on who shows up and speaks. As far as community sentiment goes.
Yeah.
And some comments might be more rational than others.
Or, yeah, better argued, just, you know,
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I know, I mean, I think the way it, I mean, we don't have to relitigate that, but I think basically the way it went, and I understand the logic was that, I think it's point number two, is it feasible to do it a different way, was I think the argument that you made, or the argument that was persuasive, that sort of carried the day, in that case. Sorry, yeah, John, to your point, like, yeah, you're right, there's the code, so there's like, it wouldn't be in front of the ZBA unless there was need for a variance, right? Like, that's what I ended up just being like, okay, we're gonna meet the side yard setback and do the garage, and so there was no need for a variance, no need to discuss it, and so like, it ended up,
I see you ended up,
yeah, so.
oh, good.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, I walked to the end of the driveway and turned back and looked at it, and it's like,
Mhm.
there was one neighbor that's several houses down that like wrote a letter and was, their argument is basically, I will see it from the street.
Well, keep in mind, there's another way of looking at these things. You know, people can have a big yard, right?
Mhm.
But they're like, well, I don't want to put my thing in the middle of my yard. So
Yeah,
they want to put it as far off into a corner or something as possible.
Yeah.
That's a reasonable.
But it's a reasonable thought,
Yeah.
but then the whole thing is, you know, everybody's like looking, but well, wait a minute, that's getting close to my yard. So what I'm saying, everything's in a balance. I mean, if you
Yeah.
have all this space, you may not have all that space, but if you do, and you didn't want to make an issue of it, you would put it right in the middle of the yard. But
yeah. I mean, this garage is built and it's a great structure and I'm happy with it. I think it's attractive. I think the negatives of the placement is that there's now like this strip, like there's a strip between the garage and the
the house.
property line that's just a useless thing. And then it's like, and it's taken from the center, like there's like a thing, but I think the other thing that I did not anticipate was like the getting in and out, you know, with the property, with the driveway being straight down the property line. Like, it's like, you have to be like, that's a pretty skilled driver, which I hope I am, to you know, navigate that in and out. Yeah, so the thing that I was interested in exploring is basically putting an addition, like a small addition on this side with a garage door. Basically extending the garage that way. To have a little more space and to have easier straight line access. The inner bay is, you know, doing this, and to have more space with a garage door.
So I can see what you're saying. So you want to be able to pull straight in, is what you're saying?
I mean, that would be one thing that would be nice about this versus, like, so you can picture 1-2 doors, like being able to get to that second door. I mean, I'd like to have the space, like I'd like to have like that. So I use the garage for parking and I also do woodworking, and it's like, I know it sounds stupid, but it's just like something that I like love doing evenings, weekends, you know, love building things for friends. It's a hobby, but like to have that extra space would be amazing. And to have it accessible with a door. So like I'm often like, you know, loading up plywood, loading up pieces of lumber, and then unloading it and pulling out, going and get more. So it'd be really nice to have a third door.
So you're talking about a door or a garage door?
Sorry, a garage, yeah, basically a third bay, a garage door.
So it's kind of like an addition to the garage, which will extend into the setback area.
Yeah, so, sorry, one of my questions was, I think this is RN, right?
Yes, right.
And so I think they changed setbacks, but not for RN, right? Change.
I don't remember, at this point, I don't remember what it was before, and versus now.
Yeah,
10
we
10
look
feet.
at things when it's presented to us.
Yeah,
We don't want to
yeah.
quote the code right
Uh,
now, but, because we don't know what your application is yet.
Oh, no, yeah, sorry, it's just like someone remarked to me, like, oh, they changed the side yard setbacks, and I was like, I don't think for RN, but,
You can look that up easily
Yeah.
yourself.
the code says 10 feet, which I think is what I remember from 20 years ago. I mean, that's what the setback is now.
Then typically that, pretty much,
Yeah.
depending on if you're a wide enough lot, but if you were a narrow lot, it would be a different equation, but basically it's 10 feet if it's a properly sized lot, you know.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so basically it's like, it's hard to quantify in words, but like, oh, like having this extra space and having that third garage bay would be a tremendous, like I would, like, it would be a tremendous benefit to me. Like I would really enjoy it, and but of course I expect the same neighbors to have.
Would this addition be as bulky as the original plan for the garage? Less.
I think that it would be, I mean, I haven't sort of done architectural drawings or anything, but I think it would be lower and it would be shorter. It would extend. I don't know, trying, like, in everything, trying to make it as attractive as possible.
So from the side from your property line to what would be the north, that's your northerly property line by the other side of the driveway from the garage. What is that distance from that property line to the front of your garage right now? Just out of curiosity.
Like 12.5 feet.
12.5 feet, okay.
Yeah.
You're thinking about putting in another bay. So you remember the comments, Will, about visibility from the road, but that's not to be delved into at this moment, but now I'm just trying to theorize what you're trying to, are you trying to be able to drive a car and be able to pull straight in? But then you would also have the same backing altitude. It'd be easier to drive in, but then you still have to maneuver to get a car completely turned around, right?
Yeah, yeah. I don't have a. Maybe if I just go on maps, it'll be a vertical satellite photo.
That's it. All that would help on a project like this, you know, especially when you're trying to tell us what the function of the design will be for you, your benefit.
Mhm.
So that would help us by getting that kind of information.
Yeah, so I'm just connected through my phone and it's somewhat slow. Yeah, I pulled my car in there. I mean, so like just to sort of feel like, okay, like,
Sorry, rolling it.
oh, sorry, yeah, just to be like, okay, how much space is there? Would it fit? What would this be like?
What is the distance to the back property line? From the structure? Were there two, I don't know whether there were two requested variances asked.
No, it's just one. It was just one. It's
It was
basically
just the side lot.
just the side lot.
North
Yeah.
side, okay.
Yeah.
So what you would do, would you typically, from the way I see you positioning the car there, your idea is you would drive into the driveway, try to get the car to turn, face the house, and then back in? Is that what you intend
I
to do?
mean,
or
currently
just-
I back down the driveway.
You back all the way out?
Yeah. Every time to go into anything basically. Yeah. I found that just and yeah. First time it was built and I was pulling the car in, I pulled it forwards into that second bay, and then I was like, oh god, like getting so I'm just looking at the satellite, see if we can get it. No, we can't. No, sorry, it's just tree shadows. I mean,
On that. I'm
sorry,
so curious.
17 there. Yeah. I mean, if you walk along there and there's a stone wall, a lot of garden in the front. You'll and a like a Japanese maple.
Yeah, so I think what most of this is coming to, and Eric will probably tell you, and is that, if it gets real close to what you initially, asked for, I mean, again, every application would be entertained, but if you'd have to show distinctions.
Right, yeah, the closer, closer your new plan is to the bulkiness completeness of the original plan, the more difficult it's gonna be to prevail.
Sorry, is the issue that it's similar to something that's already been discussed, or it's,
Well, just because the same
The same-
reasons
same
that
arguments.
led to
Yeah.
rejection before would apply, unless there's something new, which I don't know, that there doesn't seem like there is. I mean, something substantially new about the whole situation.
yeah, I mean, it's,
Like, for instance, in the law, I mean, there's
Mhm.
basic understanding, even though like slight variances make a slight difference, but you'd have to really sort of stab check. But in the law, you don't get two bites of the apple, you know,
Mhm.
trying to get it through twice if it was denied the first time, and there's no real difference between the first plan and the second plan. It's hard to anticipate a different result.
One huge difference is there's a whole new zoning code now. It was
Well, that's right.
substantially revised and
There you go.
I'm not sure if there were any of the changes help you. But I mean, it's hard to say because it's so complex. It's hard to say that. I mean, I would have to go look at the numbers. I don't know if the numbers change that much. There may be other differences. Sometimes there's exceptions for garages and different kinds that have changed. I just can't say offhand what they might be. So it's definitely worth your looking at the relevant, like garages, accessory buildings. That's really the category that we're talking about here, accessory buildings.
okay,
Just take a look at the language about accessory buildings in the new code. Just see if there's anything in there that wasn't there before that helps
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
That would be the one difference.
Yeah, these are the beneficial statements we can make to you. It's anything else other than the plan. First of all, we're not really, you know, even we're doing a workshop, as you know, we can't weigh your application at that point. We simply say what you need and you don't need. And then without any kind of even if it came to the actual hearing, absent specific information that you're trying to do, for us to weigh on anything would be speculation, absent your hard facts.
oh,
what you're
yeah,
presenting.
yeah, I understand. Yeah, I think it's just, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think the main ambiguous thing that, it's, I sort of can't find online is like, how do you quantify a benefit, or like, what is the,
Yeah, well, the answer to that is there is no objective way of quantifying.
yeah, no, of course, yeah.
Just judgment.
Yeah.
Drawing in everything, our own knowledge of the village, precedent. Every,
Mhm.
common sense. So the only things that really can be quantified are measurements, numerical measurements.
Right, yeah.
As they relate to the measurements given in the code. That's the one area where can do quantification. And then look at percentages, like what you're asking for is 50% of, this, we can get into quantification at that level, but
Mhm.
that's a fairly narrow part of the whole consideration.
And keep in mind, the character of the neighborhood. A lot of neighborhoods are different. Some were built so much earlier than the others, some are not. So if you come to Main Street here and there's still like 20-foot setbacks supposed to be, but most people are up front. And then, so you're weighing against, you're looking at the character of the neighborhood, and that might weigh in your favor if the houses are more drawn to the front. And you might say, well, I need this kind of a variance off of a front yard setback.
Mhm.
Things like that. It would be, you're basing, we're looking at the neighborhood and comparing and saying, so you would get photographs of your neighborhood. And you would say, I'm trying to do this is what I seem to see up and down the neighborhood. I'm trying not to get out of character. I believe this might be, acceptable. And then, of course, you'll have your neighbors weigh in.
Yeah.
At one point or another. So again, it's all variable.
Gotcha. I guess, yeah, I mean, one thing about where I am in Marion Avenue is like across the street is tractors, industrial buildings, trash cans.
That may weigh in your favor.
Gotcha, yeah. I think in the first time we, originally there was some discussion of like it's an otherwise conforming lot? Like where does, and then like I think there was some hesitancy to add a variance to an otherwise conforming lot. Does that fit into is that neighborhood character, or how does that fit into the conversation?
Not sure I remember exactly talking about.
Oh.
It's just a criteria of case law. You know, there's case law, I mean, it's, the five elements, you know, come down from the Court of Appeals. The code is given to us by the, Board of Trustees. And we'll evaluate so that there's not too much straying by, a board or an overlooking of aspects. The Court of Appeals comes in and says, these are the five criteria. You have to go through each one and give your reasons why you're finding for or against, you know, what is this for the applicant, against the applicant. And that's how they work it out.
Yeah, I think, it's coming back to me now, I think the point that stands out for me was I think we talked about how the Marion Avenue is a more modern subdivision. And the lots are bigger, the layout is more modern, it's more spacious. There are few non-conforming. If you go to the older parts of the village,
Yeah.
often practically there's a non-conformity in every lot, in the sense that the house is pushed way over by the property line, et cetera, lot after lot. So if someone from one of those blocks comes forward and asks for a variance of this type, it's one thing, but in a modern neighborhood where there's none of that, everything conforms. To ask for the same variance has a different color because again, it's neighborhood character.
Gotcha. Yeah, right. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I mean, if you walk around, then there's many places where there are garages right on the property line, but not on Marion.
Yeah, so that does weigh against what you're asking for, but it's just something you gotta. So in general, when you're working with your designer on the plan, you just keep in mind, the less intrusive the addition is, the better your chance. So just make everything as the minimum that you can get away with and still achieve your goal.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Is that sloping the roof maybe, so it's less, less height,
Bulky.
maybe cutting it short in the back so it doesn't extend back as far, I don't know, whatever,
Mhm.
things like, you're always thinking in those terms, like, do I really need to extend this? Can I scale this back? Will help.
Because as you just literally just pointed out, part of the law is that, you know, you grant the minimum variance that you can to achieve the goals of the applicant. So there is a narrow looking at a project and saying, well, the law says, while you can grant a variance, you're trying to keep it at within a certain spectrum of the code. So it uses the term minimum, you know, that would meet the applicant's needs. And so it's a balance in on that too. So it takes both code and the applicant's desire.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I see it. I see that it's tricky. Thank you. By the way, sorry, thank you so much for spending the time to chat about this. I don't know if you were planning on meeting anyway. I hope you didn't just have the meeting. Just 'cause-
No, we were.
Okay.
But you're entitled to.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time I mean, I obviously wish we'd had this conversation before. I had no idea what I was getting into. Yeah, and in general, thank you so much for serving on this board. I know how much time it takes to serve on these boards. It's very important. It takes people who care about it, and and so I appreciate all your time.
Well, I hope we answered, you know, as many questions you can. I mean, there really isn't anything much more sophisticated than that going on.
Right. Yeah. And I understand it's very specific to the circumstances, very specific to the application. So there's no way to sort of,
Yeah, and you're looking at
Predictably,
things
yeah.
in the balance.
yeah,
So
makes sense.
I always, what seems like the most important consideration to me when we look at applications is there another way to achieve what
Right.
you want to achieve?
Yeah.
So maybe give that I don't know, I'm sure you've
Yeah.
thought about that, but
Yeah,
a lot, right?
Yes, right,
Okay.
constantly. Yeah. Yeah,
But that always seems like, to me, a big question. Is there enough way to do this?
right. Yeah, I'll keep looking at it. And, yeah, well, again, thank you so much for your time.
It's nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have one other thing on the agenda, that is draft minutes for our meeting in September. I see you also provided Abigail January 28th.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you. Have a good evening. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
Yeah, that one was short, so I just included it.
is there a spare pen here? Thank you. Let's take a minute to read.
So we're looking at September 24th.
Yeah, start with September 24.
So was the name of the applicant, like under number 2, was it E Rath? I'm like,
That's my name.
well, that's what I'm saying.
That's just a typo in my name, yeah.
No. I just was double checking that there wasn't somebody close to you living in the neighborhood.
You rap?
Because they could be also the future chief of the zoning board.
Yeah, there you go.
The wrath of.
Yeah. I actually remember this one.
Near the fence that if the trailer were to ever move.
And the guy was staring me down
He was?
because I was asking questions, but
Yeah.
he was like, no, this is supposed to be easy.
I was the one that voted against it.
They can have my job any day.
Yeah.
401, I think the one would be
Abstaining?
maybe abstain. You may have abstained.
Oh, maybe I've
Because you
seen,
weren't.
yeah, I wasn't there.
So you-
I can mention that,
Oh, that's
but
okay.
clear.
Well, sometimes there's 4 numbers. 4 against, and absent. Is it absent? Or is it,
I just think it's abstain because you already have the attendance, right?
okay, all right, yeah.
Yeah, we're all there on the
Yeah.
attendance.
Presence, absent would be redundant.
So then it wouldn't be 4-1, then it would be 3-1, if there are only 4 attendants.
And that'd be like 301
Yeah.
for a total of 4.
Well, but, okay, so there were 5 people there that day, so,
There were? Okay.
well, you have, the adjournment, you have a vote 5-0.
I do.
So that's fine.
There weren't, yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep,
You got it right. I'm just saying that
yeah.
the numbers match up. So anybody have any other changes?
Yeah, I think, so there's none under every heading. And then there's the information block. So I think we need to delete one of the nuns and put the information block under maybe, well, the orientation could go under new business. And the resolution could go under old business.
Scratch the nuns from those two.
Yeah. How does that sound?
It sounds good to me.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay. That's one change we're gonna make is, currently there's none under every heading. So we're gonna delete the none under new business and the none under old business. And put the orientation under new business and the review of the resolution under old business.
Okay.
Then correcting spelling of my name. And, otherwise, looks okay to me.
Looks fine. Looks good. Good points. See, that's why it takes a few people to look at it.
Yeah, many eyes,
Yes.
So I will make a motion to approve the minutes of September 24th as amended.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Adams?
Move on to January 28th.
This is second reading. CBA was not here. Not much.
Yeah, so let's revisit that 1 second. The rule on somebody who wasn't there, but they're now present, can they vote on the minutes if they had seen the replay? That's one of my questions. If we want to address that, or you want to just abstain, you could do that. Yeah, oh,
I know, we talked about it in regard to resolutions.
that's right. Now it's an issue with minutes.
I don't remember whether minutes were part of that.
We have a follow-up question. I will set a minute, probably from October, it three in attendance, one is no longer with the board. Would that mean that the minutes can't be?
That's a good point, because that would mean if,
I disagree.
I mean, we could never approve those minutes.
Yeah.
I think the only change, but the person would have to be on the board at the time. Can a person who came onto the board afterwards turn around and help approve minutes for the old rule?
Yes, they would have to. That would have to be possible.
Well, so I'm bringing up this theory. So the idea, would they also have to look at the replay? Or how long are the replays?
There's no way to enforce that, so
Okay.
it would be pointless to have that as a requirement. There's just no way to enforce it. To know.
Okay, so maybe those who are present explain to the other
Um,
new applicant or the new.
Well,
member.
yeah, the new member could, I mean, it's not unreasonable to allow a new person to vote. Just as they can vote on a resolution, all they're voting on is this document.
Mhm.
To the best of their knowledge, is it accept or reject? And yes, they have potentially less knowledge, but they still are a member in good standing and they're present and they're entitled to vote on every document, every resolution, every
Except the
action.
minutes are supposed to reflect what happened at the meeting, and if you're not at the meeting, then how can you vote whether or not the minutes reflect?
Well, you can vote to accept, what you're really voting on is to accept or reject this document. And a new member is doing so with less knowledge, but they still are entitled. I mean, if this happens, variants of this happen all the time.
Nothing to get done.
Right, because people are always missing meetings, then coming to the next
Mhm.
meeting, and
Right,
then,
checking out.
and things carry over from one meeting to the other, and people.
And nothing would get resolved.
Yeah, you never have enough
Yeah.
quorum to
Quorum,
vote on
yeah.
a lot of things. And I've seen this in other bodies, I mean, a member who, in good standing, who is present, is entitled to vote on all the actions, all the documents, all the resolutions, but simply by virtue of being there, and they won't all have the same knowledge necessarily. But that's true in many ways. Many ways, they differ in their knowledge of the
Mhm.
situations, of the various situations, so.
Yeah, some people, even if they're here, don't know what's going on.
Right, some people paying less attention at the previous meeting, and you can't. So, yeah, so,
Is it allowed, is hitting allowed in meetings?
Yeah, I know. Hey, listen,
Whack 'em.
we're given our time here. Let's have a little.
No.
But no,
Okay, that
thank you.
makes
We
sense.
get it. No, I agree with you. So,
And I could see it with the resolution, because what you're doing is you're reading an entire resolution that is justified. I mean, when a resolution is written, there's, all the information is right there. So
but even that, the resolution is based on what
That's
happened in
true.
previous meetings.
yeah, that's true. True, very true.
so
Okay.
the important term to remember is you're hired, you're on board. Let's go.
Yes.
On deck batter,
Uh,
stepping in.
Yeah,
It has to be this way, Eric. Nothing would get done.
right, and a new
That
member
is a very basic.
still can make intelligent judgments about a document, past minutes.
Right.
At a minimum, that person can check for typos and.
Mhm, true.
Or if it doesn't make any
Whether
sense.
it makes sense, yeah, to a new person, I mean, in a way, they're in a good position to judge whether this makes sense, so.
Well, I didn't mean to put us on the spot with
No,
regards
you
to this,
convinced
but
me.
you know, it is something that will come around.
Definitely, well, we've wondered about it over and over, and we addressed it partly with Jonathan DeJoy, so
Yeah.
I think we've hashed it out to our satisfaction.
Because Nothing would get done. And that you can't allow that.
If you were always having to parse about who was here,
Yeah,
That's true.
Okay,
yeah, and having been at the previous meeting to this, I kind of get the drift of everything, because I remember what we talked about, so. There is some contribution, in addition to typos I can do, even though I
Well,
wasn't
there's
here.
no point to that. You may not have been there for the particular meeting, but these items may have been discussed at another meeting that came successfully or.
Yeah.
So, there, you know, when you're a volunteer board, it has to be the case. There's no way we're wrong. I don't see it. I just wouldn't say it.
I've never heard of, I mean, boards would be wasting half their time on this point.
Right. And we do have deadlines, and there are statutes for it, you know.
So, I like the way you format the motion and the persons who move and second this way. It's very clear to, to kind of, at a glance, tell who did what.
So for the HDRB. That's how they do things.
Okay, well, that looks good to me.
yeah, looks good to me too. There. Minute,
John?
Yeah,
Oh,
I was just
sorry.
reworking one or two things in my head thinking, but I'm almost done. Okay. I don't see any changes either. So, you make a motion anyway? Come on, Robert, do it.
So-
Make a motion to accept the minutes from January 28th, 2025.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
as is, right?
Mhm.
Not
As
amended,
is.
as is.
Good job, woo-hoo.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so, Abigail,
On Fair Street.
if you'll send me finalized.
They're overrepresented.
Yeah, my signature.
That was such an
That's
interesting
September,
discussion where we were just.
For the vote for the two.
Oh, yeah.
It was really good.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, there is.
It's the biggest project this place has ever seen, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Any other business?
that's it.
I haven't heard, you recall that we, had discussions about, creation of a motorcycle
Yes,
hobbyist.
I remember.
Down by the depot.
Yeah, on the first floor, that I guess, hasn't communicated any further. I mean, he stopped, right? He just stopped answering or stopped communicating.
I don't think it was completely him. I think he wanted to will the whole thing into, existence. But he did withdraw his application.
Drew it from the building department. Yeah, he didn't provide some of the stuff we asked for, so, yeah, so I guess that's kind
Yeah,
of.
yeah, kind of a high bar.
Yeah.
I think
So that's right across from the restaurant, right?
Depot.
Yeah, I've seen people in and out of there. There's a little activity more than usual going on in there.
I think they may be, perhaps the owner's just trying to sell the building, because it's just not, you can't do anything with it.
And that's an original building. I mean, that's one of the ones you see in all the old photographs.
Wow.
It's in a lot of the old photos, yeah.
Take the aluminum siding off, fix it up again.
Yeah.
It looks like,
The project for you.
Oh.
a yellow building,
That's what
on
I'm
the other side of the square, it's
Mhm.
finally getting
Yeah.
getting some action.
Brian bought that building, I think.
Who's Brian?
somebody?
Yeah.
Person.
I know from Boy Scouts.
Oh, I don't know,
Oh,
but,
nice.
oh, so
Yeah.
would you know what they're gonna do with it?
I don't know, I know he bought a bunch of buildings in Maine.
Oh, wow.
What's the French restaurant?
So what's your favorite color of all those splashes on the side of the
Oh,
building?
right.
Did
That's
you
funny.
see how they're looking at it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
funny.
Be nice, yeah, it'd be nice if I've been here since 2001 and it's been vacant since then.
Exactly. Same here.
And it's,
Exactly.
it'd
Oh,
be nice to be some
It's a
purpose for that.
Cool.
It wore
Oh,
Tyvek
building.
for at least 10 of those or 12 of those.
Yeah, for like a year, there was somebody in there, I think they had a desk, and like a lamp.
It's a nice building, but who knows what the location
Yeah.
is.
Oh,
For
yeah.
commercial use.
Should be bathrooms in there. For
Uh-oh.
people getting off the train.
The welcoming center.
12 bathrooms.
Yeah.
Very welcoming.
We've had to zone that for.
Special zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, special
Special
zone.
use permit.
Yeah.
And they need clearance from the sewer treatment plant.
Oh,
So I make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
I,
Aye. Thank you, Eric. Thanks for having us.
Thanks,
Robert,
thank you,
Marion.
everybody.
Go next, right?
Oh, wow.
Oh, boy. I don't like the new style of